What if leaving clinical practice wasn't a failure, but the beginning of your most meaningful work?
Just because you did a medical degree doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a doctor in the traditional sense. You can use your expertise and knowledge to help across the health system, and in some cases even outside of the health system. There were all these roles outside of what I had seen traditionally when I was going through medical school that nobody ever tells you about.
In this episode of Investing for Doctors podcast, I sit down with Dr Amandeep Hansra, GP, startup founder, digital health leader, and the co-creator of Creative Careers in Medicine, to explore what happens when doctors stop asking, how do I stay in medicine? And start asking, where else can I make a difference?
I think we're not really doing justice to our medical students and junior doctors if we don't show them that there are all these possibilities out there.
Medicine is not all this boring stuff or the painful stuff, that abusive relationship I have with the hospital system beating me down every single day. There are so much opportunities out there. We talk about the surprising number of doctors quietly exploring non-clinical paths, why the real investment is in yourself and not just the next job title, and how to turn guilt, burnout, and uncertainty into career clarity without throwing away your medical degree. Whether you're curious about digital health, entrepreneurship, research, or just looking for more meaning in your work, this episode will open doors you didn't know existed. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back to another installment of the Investing for Doctors podcast. I'm your host, Dr. B. And now today we have a very, very special guest who I've known for very long as well, Dr. Amandeep Hansra. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, B.
All right. Now, I think a lot of people probably already know you if they follow what we do on Investing for Doctors and Medical Angels. But for those who have never met you, who is Dr. Amandeep Hansra?
Oh, great question. I'll try and keep it succinct because it could take all day. So I am a GP by background, so still work clinically in a practice in Sydney. But the majority of my time is now spent in sort of the digital health space. Maybe about 15 years ago, I started to venture a bit out of sort of the traditional paths and started to work in different areas of medicine and landed myself working for a telehealth company. And that was back before telehealth was cool.
Was a thing, yeah.
Was a thing. It wasn't a thing back then. And I helped set up a telehealth business here in Australia, and then ended up working for Telstra, and I moved across to them, again, did some more virtual care work, and ended up being the CEO of a telehealth business, which not just taught me all of the technology side of things, but also, you know, sort of how to do a startup within a corporate, also leadership and business. And from there, I did another telehealth startup in the Philippines. So that was another startup adventure, but in a different environment. And that was without a corporate partner. So really understanding what it's like to do a corporate with, a startup with no money. And then I started to sort of explore opportunities outside of that. Did a lot of consulting work, helping public and private organisations with digital health projects and innovation. But I really had the startup bug and wanted to continue to help founders, and that's sort of how it led me to bumping into you and how Medical Angels came about. But in amongst all of that, I also started Creative Careers in Medicine, which we'll touch on a bit later as well. So currently I'm working part-time as the Chief Clinical Advisor for the Australian Digital Health Agency, but continue to sit on boards and committees and do some other digital health work outside of that, as well as doing all the cool fun stuff we do with startups.
Yeah, and then, things like Medical Angels, Seeker Lab and all that sort of stuff. But
I didn't even touch on Seeker Labs, but
but we'll talk about it. We've got plenty of time to talk about that. Is that the short version?
That's a short version. There's lots of twists and turns in there, but we'll have to have a whole episode just on all the things I've done, but that's a short version. So,
one of the things that we're focusing on in the latest sort of series of podcasts is the idea of investing in yourself. And, with Creative Careers in Medicine, that's a very strong theme of how do you find who you are as a clinician? What do you do within medicine? What do you do outside of medicine? Or how do you bridge the, what is traditionally seen as a medical career versus a, a creative career.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I have observed over the years is that the definition of a doctor, or what it means to be a doctor, has just gone wider and wider and wider. Is that your experience?
Yeah, look, I mean, when I first started creative careers in medicine, it was really a selfish need to create a community for people that thought like me. And my view was that just because you did a medical degree doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a doctor in the traditional sense. You can use your expertise and knowledge to help across the health system, and in some cases even outside of the health system. So when I was working at Telstra, I met so many different clinicians that were working in running startups, that were working in corporate roles, were chief medical officers of organisations, working in insurers. And I started to realise that there were all these roles outside of what I had seen traditionally when I was going through medical school and my junior years that nobody ever tells you about. And you kind of have to just fumble your way until you find somewhere to land. And I think we're not really doing justice to our medical students and junior doctors if we don't show them that there are all these possibilities out there. Because for some people, they may never want to work in a hospital. They may never want to work in a clinic. They're interested in health systems. They're interested in, supporting with their health knowledge and expertise in other ways, but they don't necessarily have to be treating a patient in front of them. So that was really where it sort of started. But I realised that by creating that community, we actually filled this gap where there were a lot of doctors who were not members of certain training colleges, who hadn't figured out what they were doing with their lives, who were career medical officers or locums, and more of them as time went on, and others that were questioning whether they even wanted to train train in a certain specialty. And so bringing them together, I think, allowed for that community to sort of support each other, find each other, and also for some people to find their passion again for, things that they had lost, because some people were working within a broken system and thinking that was what medicine was, that was all it could be. And if you can't, if you make a decision based on one system experience, you could throw away a whole career. Whereas as soon as they get out and they try other things, they're like, actually, this isn't so bad. So I think we've created a lot of alternative sort of paths for people. And you're right, I see it as a form of investing in yourself. So we try and help people upskill. We support them with, education and training, and get them along to conferences and events, and really help them understand how they can be more than, what I guess we were all taught was
the bread and butter clinician, right? I mean, I remember when I entered medical school, that the concept was that you what you saw on TV, or because that's most people's experience with medicine.
Grey's Anatomy or ER or something.
ER was the one for me, and Scrubs was sort of the lighter side
now
of
be
it.
The Pit, for
now
others.
The Pit or House, but we all knew that was a dysfunctional version of what a clinician was. But in all of those shows, it showed a clinician that was basically patient-facing and only did that much to some of their own personal detriment and sacrifices, which was a common theme across all of these shows. And as we get out there, we're almost warned that it's going to come at high personal sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And I dare say the system now today is a lot worse than what it was, and it continues to suffer. And I guess that's where a lot of discontentment comes in.
I mean, I'd like to think that a lot of these people, if the system was more supportive and it was more functional, that many of them would not be seeking alternative careers. But
that's right.
But that's okay. If we do have people that we've trained, then we put them through this really
hellish experience.
And then they want to leave. At least if we capture them before they leave and say, don't leave medicine completely, but how about we repurpose your skills and experience? Maybe you do a startup to solve some of those problems. Maybe you go into a leadership role. Maybe we get you doing some management consulting to help fix the system. So there's lots of other ways we can utilize those people, because I think the stats in Australia, about 10% attrition that we lose. And how much it costs to train a doctor, I think it's over $500,000. We train somebody and then only to lose, have this leaking
Yeah.
bucket where we lose
When
them.
they come out of medical school, I mean, I've seen some where they graduate and then they disappear.
They just
into the
never,
wild,
they
do
never
an internship.
practice. No, that's right. And so we've seen a lot of those, and some who will leave in, the last few years of medical school because they start to see what it's like in the clinical world as they start to do their clinical placements and go, well, that's not for me. So we go back and say, oh, is it a selection thing? Are we selecting the right people into medicine? But I think the very obvious things are that the system that they have to train in is not a supportive, kind system, and it's going to push people out who probably we would want to keep in, in medicine. So at least we're offering a place for them to, to go and
ruminate sometimes.
Ruminate. They sometimes take some time out and they go do something else for a while and then they come back. They get rejuvenated and they get inspired again and then come back. And as you said, the system is continuously changing and evolving. So the system that I did my junior years and, it's very different to the system now.
Man, I was speaking to a clinician this morning and I recall when I was an intern, we did easily 60, 70 hour weeks and that was the norm. But
nobody complained about it.
Nobody is doing that hours these days. And,
No.
And nobody wants to do those hours.
And all the unpaid overtime that you do, that you did back then and never thought about claiming it. And that was like such a big thing, but it was just not the right thing to do.
Absolutely. And I'm PGY 15 now and I look back on those days and what we have today is like times have very much changed. It's so different now and a lot of things for the better. But I think there's a lot of things that has deteriorated.
There's so much room for improvement. And I think what's happening is we're not also keeping pace with the demands on the system. So yes, you might have improved it slightly, the conditions, but when we see how overworked people are, it's not just because, that was how they were before, but it's like suddenly we've got, a sicker population, more chronic diseases, older people, not enough resources, population's growing still and we don't have healthcare workers growing as quickly.
One of the things that I always chime on and on about is that there's such a demographic shift in the workforce. People are finishing medicine older. People are choosing more lifestyle over, working 70-hour week, 80-hour weeks. And so even though we have more medical students coming through, the actual man hour that is generated by these people or the willingness to generate man hours out of those people is much the same really. And at the same time, you get the aging population, you get increasing complexities of medicine because I recall when I was an intern, there was only like maybe 3 or 4 diabetic drugs. And now there's a dozen of them. Each with its pros and cons and side effect profiles and all the attached administrative burden of even prescribing them.
Absolutely. Like medicine's become very complex and I think while, research and technology advancements help us in many ways, it also makes our job like incredibly difficult when you have to, you have to know everything. And you're right, like you've got, more and more complex patients. I think you've also got higher expectations from the public as we've created more literate populations in understanding their health and being able to access information themselves through the internet, through AI now. Their expectations of what they want from us as practitioners is like much higher than when you remember the day when they used to think you were God.
You're God? Yeah. You're a lowly intern, but like, oh yes,
yes,
doctor.
We'll listen to anything you say. Whereas they come in now, they're like, well, I've already chat GPT'd all of this, and you're like completely wrong.
Why are you not doing this, and this, right?
And they question you, and I think that's particularly also post COVID, because everybody became experts in science during COVID.
Armchair experts, sometimes.
And so it's a lot harder now to explain to patients why you want them to follow a certain, care plan or why you want to prescribe them something. And so so I just think it's become more challenging to be a doctor in this day and age, which you can understand why people start to go, well, what other options are there?
I used to use this analogy about medicine. It's like an abusive partner. in a way, and it's always asking more and more of you and demanding more and more of you, but it's not really giving you much back in return. And when you try to leave, there's the shame, the guilt, and all those things being placed on.
Or you're a clinical marshmallow.
Or it's like, oh, why are you wasting your medical degree and all that sort of unhelpful comments.
Do you get those questions when they say, what are you doing, and you explain to them and they go, why, you're wasting your medical degree doing all these other things.
So I personally, I don't feel that, because I remember, and this is something I've mentioned to people before, that when I got into medicine, one of the most empowering things my mother said to me was that just because you got a medical degree doesn't mean you got to do medicine for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And when she meant the word do medicine, it really meant, work as a clinical sort of patient-facing doctor.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously now with what you're doing with CCIM and the broader awareness of all the cool things we could do with our medical degree, I would say the definition of what a doctor is has just expanded.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
We can be influencers, we can be running policy, we could be in lobbying, advocacy, we could be in so many, or consulting, management consulting, change consulting. There's just so much more where we can apply that medical sort of skill set or lingo into other areas.
Yeah. I think Australia is a bit behind some other countries because you look at the US or the UK, you've probably got a lot more clinicians that have stepped out to do other things, particularly in the US where they're running hospitals.
Yeah.
Even here, we don't have a lot of doctors that go and run hospitals.
Or private equity funds.
Yeah, you get a lot of that. You've got doctors in venture capital in the UK, US. I mean, we could probably count on our fingers how many doctors have gone into venture capital.
Yeah, I think we probably know all of them.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's quite a rare thing, but only when you step out, because I'm not sure if you've kind of experienced this. Have I realized the impact you can have about being a clinical voice in a room full of non-clinicians? Like when you come in and you give advice around what should we invest in, or, do we change this workflow, if it's for a technology company or if it's for government and it's a policy discussion, you explain how it's going to affect the person, at the front line. You suddenly realize how valuable your voice is because you're the only clinical voice in there.
I want to ask you, do you think that's because of how valuable you are or how unknowledgeable the rest of the world is about medicine?
Yeah.
I almost feel like...
Look, I think it's really hard to know the intricacies of what it's like delivering care on the floor if you've never done it.
Yeah.
And this is why I encourage a lot of medical students who say, as soon as I finish, I want to go and do X or Y and do something else. And I always say studying it is not the same as actually working in it.
Yeah.
I think you've got to work in it for a little while and just really experience the pain, like the pain points, the frustration, the administration, the patient expectation, like all of that stuff.
And the grief and sorrow that comes with...
the emotional burdens, the sleepless nights of worrying about whether you did the right thing or not, the medico-legal liability stuff. Like there's so much to consider. And I think it's very hard if you've never done it to, whether it's somebody sitting in government bureaucracy, whether it's somebody sitting in a tech company, for them to understand
And
that.
I think one of the things that really resonated with me going through the journey is that I don't feel like you can be understand what being a doctor truly means until you get that one patient where you go and think, holy shit, have I done something that either directly or indirectly led to this person's death?
Yes.
And I think every single senior doctor who's worth their salt would have gone through that.
Yeah.
That period of self-doubt and say, how can I be better?
Yeah.
And what can I do to make things better?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
That's something I think we all personally experienced.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like to say is that I also don't think you're a real doctor until you actually make decisions on someone else's life where you are the decision maker.
Yeah, that's right.
So you do say, spend a few years in the system, but I think it's not just finish your internship off.
Yeah.
You have to do an internship. You're going to be a resident. Maybe as a junior registrar, that's when you really do make decisions that could impact on someone's life.
Yeah.
And until you do that, you don't know how scary that is.
Yeah, it's very scary. It's very scary when you think it's like a direct result of something you did or didn't do that somebody...
It's that responsibility, right?
Gets harmed. Yeah. And I think that also then helps other organizations understand why we are so risk averse. You know, they always see the doctors as the naysayers, or, you know, if you're a CMO in an organization, they always look at
like
you.
the most hated person.
Yeah. And they're like, we don't want to bring you stuff because you're just going to say no. Yeah. The reason why we say no to things, or the reason why tech companies might not like us, is because, you know, we don't just go, that's amazing tech, is we're always thinking about who could it potentially hurt or harm, because we've been there and we know the things that can harm. And, you know, even like people don't understand that technology could be harmful. Yeah. And you start to explore the whole world of, you know, digital health and AI, and you realize even EMRs, you know, if it gets a drug dose wrong, how many people it could kill potentially. Like there's so many implications that is our job, is that we are managing risk all the time.
Yeah. And the end result of that risk is a human life.
It's a human life. It's not
multiple human
somebody
lives.
Gets paid too much or somebody gets the wrong product delivered to their home, or it's none of that. It's actually that it's human life loss. Yeah. And that is why we are sometimes considered difficult to work with, but it's only because the stakes are so high in medicine. Yeah.
And, you know, I always make this joke in emergency. It's like, but did you die?
Yeah, but it's also,
it's a bad joke, but
yeah, but it's also interesting when you're in other organizations outside of medicine and they say, oh, we've got an emergency, and it's like, there's never really an emergency until you've been in a real medical emergency. Yes. I'm like, who's dying? And they're like, no one's dying, but there's this, you know, media release that needs to go out, and you're like, again, like nobody's dying. Why is this so urgent? But so you've got a different perspective. Yeah. But it's great. I think we're seeing more clinical people getting out into the other parts of the system and trying to add their value.
And you know, you mentioned that you were like solely focused, and then until you got out, you saw the rest of the you know, the forest, right?
Oh, so
I think I had a very similar experience. It's like, because I started out as a locum, and when I quit trying to be a surgeon, one of the first few things I did was I got myself into to do a PhD, and then I enrolled myself as a emergency locum. Yeah, and that's how I ended up in emergency medicine. But like, when I truly started on that journey, I started to realize all the people that I've never met before that are outside of the system, doing the things they love. You know, I met people who just love traveling, so they locum around the country, or they love photography, and they use that as a means to get them to where they need to be. Yeah. And until you put yourself out there, I never realized how big and diverse that cohort is.
Oh, it's crazy. Like, I mean, I've done so many jobs in my lifetime. It's quite funny when you try and count up how many jobs I've done. And it's not because I want to keep, like, I leave a place because I don't like it. It's actually just, I want to experience it all. And even just as a doctor, I'm like, I don't have enough years in my working life to do all the cool things I want to do. Because I look at sometimes and I go, oh, I'd love to be like a media doctor. And then I'm like, oh, I love sports medicine. And then I think, I love kind of aviation, and I never really got to do that deeply. But then I want to run off with MSF and do humanitarian work. And you just sit there and you just like start thinking about all the possibilities. Yeah. And and none of those are like, you know, what we were taught in medical school, sort of traditional roles. But as I've discovered them, it's made me realize just how many options and how lucky I am to be in the position that I'm in. But yeah, I would have my career over again if I could go and try all these other things as well.
So many aspirations, isn't there?
Yeah, it's crazy to feel so inspired all the time that you've got lots of other options and you can do all these other things. It's pretty cool.
I think that's something that's really powerful about the group you run, in the way that you can showcase all these aspirational and inspirational sort of careers, and to make people feel like, hey, medicine is not all this, you know, the boring stuff or the painful stuff. You know, that abusive relationship I have with the hospital system beating me down every single day. Yeah. There are so much opportunities out there.
And it suits some people. Like some people are very happy doing their, you know, particular specialty, and they've got a good relationship with their hospital, and they've got private rooms and they're all set up. And that's fine. If that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, that's
we shouldn't
fine.
be so negative. But but there's
a group of people it doesn't suit. Yeah. Like we bring all sorts of different personalities into medicine. And the other thing I think what happens is when you do the medical degree, there's something that happens where it kind of almost takes your identity away as anything else. You just become known as a medical student or a future doctor, and people had lives before then. You know, you meet people who were, you know, world grade musicians or
dancers.
were Olympians or were dancers, professional dancers, people who were computer engineers, you know, and they're marketers. They had whole lives before they became a medical student. But it's like that all gets wiped, and then you become a medical student, and then you have no other interests. And so sometimes what we find is what we do at Creative Careers in Medicine is help people reconnect with
their own interests.
Yeah, their own interests, who they were, take their identity away from you are a ED physician, a GP, a cardiologist. It's actually you are, you know, whatever your name is, and you used to be, you know, a really passionate violinist, and you can get back to doing that, you know. So I think that's also part of sustainability and longevity within the medical sector, is that you don't burn people out if they can have outside interests and they can, you know, feel like they're living, you know, a life outside of just their job.
Yeah.
But we kind of take over everything, you know.
Yeah, it has, because, you know, it's such a overwhelming career path. And, you know, I'm going to borrow that Ikigai thing where the 4 different components, right? And medicine is supposed to fulfill every single one of them. It's like trying to put all your eggs into one basket and, you know, or finding the right, you know, partner or finding the right...
and expecting them to be everything to you.
To be everything to you. It just doesn't work.
It's dangerous, yeah.
It's a very dangerous thought to go on, and it burns people out.
That's right. And that's why I always say to people, like, you know, your Ikigai does not have to be made up of, you know, just your job. It's find the other things that can contribute to it. And that's what, when we look at, you know, across the world at, you know, the blue zones and where people have lived past 100, it's really them finding multiple things that contribute to the Ikigai. It's not like them found one job that's like all serving purpose.
You know, I guess in medicine, to answer that question, is that is it good? Yes, it's good. Is it something that people want? Yes, it's something people want. Is it something that I'm good at? Oh, maybe. And then is it something
do you get paid for
it? Yeah, most of the time it does. But the thing is that sometimes you may not be that interested in it, even though you're good at it.
Or you really enjoy it, but you don't get paid well. Like, for example, being
General
a GP.
practice.
No, that's right. I mean, like if somebody paid me well, I think, and I had longer appointments, I would absolutely love it. But I don't like the high throughput part of general practice, which is driven by you need to be paid better. So I think, and, you know, same with the specialties that don't get paid as well. Like, you know, if you see a lot of people going to procedural specialties because
procedural pays better.
That pays better, but, you know, somebody might go, I want the money, but, you know, doing scope after scope isn't really fun. But I'll sacrifice doing psychiatry because this will pay better, you know. And you can sort of see people making decisions. So then it can't fulfill your Ikigai if you're making those trade-off decisions all the time. So it's about finding who you are outside of your, you know, your career as well.
And perhaps that just means a hobby.
It might be a hobby. And we've got some amazing doctors that are incredibly talented, you know, arty, you know, whether it's photography or crochet or pottery, like the skills that come through.
Is amazing.
It's incredible. And some people find that is what helps balance out the stress that they have in their medical career, because they get to do this other stuff that, you know, kind of is a bit of a stress release for them. But you've got to help them find time, and you've got to help them
to say it's okay.
It's okay. It's a lot about permission.
That's the thing that I've seen a lot, is that it's okay to not be satisfied with what you have. Because we've painted this career as, you know, we put it on such a pedestal. It's
You're so lucky to have gotten into medicine. Do you know how many people would have killed?
Why can't you just be
to
happy?
do that. I get that all the time.
It's just like, oh, you know, you've got beautiful kids. Why can't you just be happy? Or if you've got, you know, all this money, why can't you just be happy? I was like, it's not that.
I know. And you get made to feel shame when you're not 100% happy in medicine. There's a lot of shame attached to it, because you should be grateful that you got in, because everybody else wanted a position. And so a lot of people just silently suffer because society tells them that they're not allowed to be upset about it. And the other thing nowadays is that, I think we touched on this earlier, is that there's just so many bottlenecks in medicine as well. And that's another point where people feel
incredibly discontent.
Yeah.
I think recently we saw a post about
the unaccredited
registrar who's
yeah.
like 10 years out from
Yeah.
medical school, but still have not gone into the training of their
Yeah.
choice. And what that means, I mean, I cannot begin to imagine.
So soul destroying, year after year,
person.
waiting. And you feel like
to
your
be
life
led
is on
along the way.
hold. Yeah.
Your life is on the way. You've been sold this dream
Yeah.
that you can never reach, and yet they've just,
but they've got a
pulled
pound of
you
flesh
along.
out of you because you've been providing a service all this time.
And again, I go back to the abusive relationship thing. It's just like it's sometimes medicine is an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And we just have to power through it.
Yeah, which is why it's so nice to see hope and, some of the positive sides with the stuff that we do with, innovation and getting people into different roles. And I think that's what's drawn me to things like Creative Careers in Medicine and Medical Angels, is that you get to see more of the positive side of what can be done in the health system.
Because, there's one thing that we all love to do and can do, endlessly, which is bitch and moan about how broken medicine is.
I know. So I'm like a doer. I'm like, don't come to me with all of your problems. We just need to find solutions and get on with building them. And if there isn't a solution out there, then
maybe you should build it.
You should build it. That's exactly what we did with our respective communities.
Yeah.
If you can't find that community or you can't find that service or whatever it is, then nothing's stopping you from creating it yourself.
And I think what we do is very complementary because the way that I go about teaching people about financial freedom and financial independence is that, you might be tied to this, golden handcuffs for a period of time because you need to pay the bills, you need to pay down your mortgage, put the kids through private school or whatnot. But if you can invest your money and be free from those shackles, in that you truly develop that financial independence and the freedom,
then do whatever you actually want to do.
And that the good old FU money, then you can choose what you want to do in medicine. You can carve out the bits that you don't want to do and then do the bits you do.
100%. And the way I see it is that the best thing to invest in is yourself. So I believe like yours might be investing for doctors, ours is investing in doctors, where we invest in ourselves.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you change the name.
No, it's all right. I won't steal it. It's a bit too close.
It's too corny as well.
But people ask me, whether they should spend the money and do a course or, take a different route or actually take a step down. So sometimes people say to me, I want to leave clinical medicine, but this non-clinical role I want to do is paid, a bit less.
Yeah.
And that feels like I'm going backwards. And I'm like, no, you're actually investing in yourself because what you're doing is you're allowing, imagine you're sort of paying to acquire new skills and experience in this non-clinical world. So, whatever you've dropped in pay is actually your payment for
your school fee.
Yeah, it's your fee for getting an education while you're learning on this new job. And then the next job that you have, you've got now this job that's giving you that experience. And then you'll go back up again.
Yeah.
And I found that often, like I've gone backwards a few times in my career where I have taken lower paying jobs only to then get ahead down the track. And I think we're really bad at doing that. That seems to be the barrier that stops a lot of people. Yeah.
It's seen as failure or
like, it affects your status or something in society if you're seen as going backwards. But I'm like, sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards. And to me, that's a type of investment in yourself.
Yeah. It's a fear, I think. And a lot of people fear that loss. It's that loss aversion because we're such... we've been trained up to be so sensitive towards risk that step back is overwhelmingly risky and we can't handle that.
No, that's so true. And because you can't have failure in medicine, like you're not allowed to have failure, not with a patient, So again, stakes are high. So that's why I think a lot of the doctors that don't get through their training programs or their exams are so hard on themselves because we just take failure really badly. And it's so different to the startup world where failure is kind of celebrated.
And it's expected in a way.
And, it's like fail fast. It's part of the mantra of doing a startup. Whereas you imagine telling doctors it's okay to fail, because against everything that we're taught is like, you've got to make the patient better and if you harm them, you failed. And if you don't get through exams, you failed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And leads to a lot of performance anxiety in a lot of people as well.
Oh, yeah. The number, I'd love to see the stats on this, is what percentage of doctors have performance anxiety compared to the general population. Because we get lots of requests in creative careers in medicine for coaches for anxiety. And I think we kind of create it ourselves, within.
Yeah, well, you get hyper type A personalities.
Yeah.
And,
you put them in this environment.
It's no wonder that happens. But yeah, one of the things that a lot of clinicians who are a bit more creative do want to do is like have startups.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very different journey to being a clinician, isn't it? That's full of risks, as you say.
Full of risk. And it really takes somebody brave to go from medicine, which is quite secure, safe in terms of you're always going to have a job. Even if there's a recession,
or a pandemic.
The people that are going to be employed are you. Yeah. And, we're in one of the best kind of safe, secure professions. Yeah. But to kind of throw that away and say, I'm going to go to something that doesn't pay me anything, that I'm going to have to pour money into, that I'm going to spend time on it, and I've got no guarantee of success, and 9 out of 10 of them are going to fail. That takes real guts, and there's only a specific sort of subset, I think, of doctors that can actually go and do something like that and feel comfortable doing it. But the ones that do are so successful. Like, we've seen that our clinician founders and particularly, we've seen them through Seeker Lab, Medical Angels. We start to realise that being a doctor gives you huge great advantage when you're building something in healthcare.
And I think one of the things is that medicine selects for highly intelligent and often creative people, but medicine itself, or rather I say the practice of medicine itself,
is not creative.
It's not creative at all, because you've got guidelines, you've got rules, you have regulations,
you can't just make stuff
algorithms to follow, and so it feels very stale.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people who are highly intelligent, highly creative struggle.
Yes, I think you're right, and I think the ones that we see go out, do a startup, they've got all of this creative, sort of
what if
and they have an outlet that they need, and then they get into the startup world and they get to have their outlet. But I think you're right in terms of they've got a lot of other great qualities and skills, which is they're really hard workers, they're dedicated, they often have they're very purpose driven, so it's not just like money, business drive. It's like, I actually want to make an impact and make a difference. And sometimes you need that when you're doing the hustle of a startup and you've got your 30th rejection, for a business opportunity, and you're struggling to pay your staff, and you've been given another quote for your dev work, and you're just like, what am I doing? Yeah. You've got to be really purpose-driven to know that, okay, the end goal is that I want to make a difference here, and this is how I'm going to do it. You're right. They have great work ethic. They're usually, honest and, have integrity, and all things that, people that want to invest in them or work with them, look for. So they make great founders. I'm not saying they're the only people that can found,
medical
health companies, but I think they do have, some advantages. And then obviously the frontline experience is key, right?
Yes.
And the networks.
Yeah. Okay. So Amandeep, being the founder of CCIM, I'm sure there's people messaging you all the time, trying to pick your brains and asking for advice on what they should do in their career, or how you would approach something. What are the most common things that people ask you about, perhaps, in the direction they want to head in their career?
Yeah, look, lots of people are looking to try other things, but they don't know what the first steps are. And we often get people writing to us saying, can you just find me a job? But it's a bit more than just finding them a job. You got to understand what it is that they want to do, why they want to leave what they're doing, why it is that they want to find a different job. Some people just go, I want to go non-clinical. And there's lots of kind of creative careers you can do that are still clinical, but there are obviously lots non-clinical too. And then when you sort of dig deep a bit as to why they want to go non-clinical, it's often because they've had a bad experience in a system that they didn't, enjoy working in, and they assume the solution is to go non-clinical. But sometimes you can say to them, look, if you tried a different system or you worked in a different clinical setting, you might still enjoy clinical work. Yeah. So I often send them to Ash Coxon, who runs Medical Career Planning. She's a fantastic career coach. There's lots of career coaches around, but Ash is one who was one of the original sort of founders with me of Creative Careers in Medicine. So coaching is really a great way for some of those clinicians to unpack what it is that's pushing them into this other role that they want to do or pulling them. And then I think it's about timing, because people sort of ask, should I finish my training, or should I do my internship, or should I drop out as a medical student? So but it's very specific.
Like, that's very personal, isn't it?
It's so personal. You kind of have to, you can't have a one size fits all. You have to understand, what is it that they want to go and do? How painful is it for them to finish that training program? How close are they to the end? I mean, I think the sweetest spot is if you do have some experience as a clinician, and you and I have spoken about this, and you're still practicing a bit, to start doing some of the other stuff, because then you have kind of an insurance policy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You've got a job that's always going to be there. You've got that stability and security, but you can also go and venture out and do some of the crazy stuff that you want to do.
Crazy stuff that we do.
Yeah. And then I get a lot of people who want to start businesses, so a lot of entrepreneurs, and how do I even register my business, or is this a good idea, or can I do this, or do I need to find someone else? A lot of questions around, further education. People assume if they want to do a tech startup, they need to go do software engineering course or something. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Find someone else to do that.
And they try and be all things, so.
Yeah, that's very curious, isn't it? It's only in medicine that we assume that you need one person to do every single thing. Almost like the job needs to fulfill every single aspect of our life as well. It's like there's that unity, almost that singularity that everything needs to converge.
And
otherwise it's too much. You can't do it.
Well, we should be better at working in teams and understanding the roles of multidisciplinary.
Which is funny, because we all work in teams and clinically.
It's crazy. And I sort of tell people about the multidisciplinary approach, right? When you're in a hospital and you've got the physio coming and the OT coming, and like you don't do the physio and the OT just because you think you know how to do
Does that resonate with people?
Yeah, people are like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, so why are you coding as well as being the doctor, as well as being the business person? Like get the team to come and do it. And it's also a leverage thing, right? So you're not spending all your time doing things that other people could do for you, and you focus on the things that you're going to be really good at. But we get some of these crazy doctors that also want to build the tech themselves and want
to run the marketing.
Want to run marketing, doing all the financial modeling and the spreadsheet, and you're just like, just pick something that you're good at and do that.
Ideally, that's the medicine bit.
Yes, ideally, but we've had lots of interesting sort of approaches that people have. But when we refer some of them to Seeker Lab, which is our accelerator program that can help them turn an idea into something real tangible. So whether it's intrapreneurship or entrepreneurship, that 12-week program is really good for people who are kind of a bit like, I've got this idea, but I don't know what to do with it. Because then they get exposed to marketing and to business models and to, how would you scale? How do you build a prototype? Like, how do you get investment? All of that stuff. And during that process, they often realize, oh, okay, maybe I need a team. Maybe it's not something I can do all on my own.
Yeah. And I think they also learn was like, okay, is this the right time for me? Is this not the right time for me? Because the timing thing is very important in medicine.
Everything about, do you have kids, private schools, fees to pay? Do you have a partner that's working, not working? There's all sorts of other things to factor in. But I love answering questions and trying to help people, because I didn't have that when I was going through all those decisions. And now if I can help people, it's great. The problem is, just trying to keep up.
Enough time.
It's lack of time. And so luckily I've got great community now who can kind of step in as well and help. Yeah,
absolutely. I think when I went for it, it was just, I just fell off a cliff. I just jumped straight into it. There was no
dipping
no
your toes
back
in or anything.
I basically quit my job, started a PhD, and then figured out how to earn a bit more money through locoming, and that was it. There was no halves.
You are brave. I think I was a little bit more dipping my toes in before, and still holding on to my clinical work as much as possible. But now it's shifted. It used to be holding on to it because I was scared of losing the security, and now it's more out of interest because I enjoy it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that it's the same job.
Yes, hasn't changed.
Yeah, hasn't changed, but because you found that extra something outside,
and
which allows you to look back in,
makes you feel different about it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And I think that's a very positive thing.
And that's what we hope we can do with everyone else in the community, is make them feel passionate about that again.
Yeah, find that passion, reinvest in yourself.
Yeah.
And be a better clinician.
Yeah, 100%.
Journey. Awesome.
Great.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information and opinions shared are not intended as personal financial advice. The content presented should not be relied upon for making financial, investment, or other decisions. Listeners are strongly encouraged to seek the advice of qualified financial or legal professionals before making any financial decisions. While we aim to provide valuable and accurate information, we make no guarantees regarding the completeness or accuracy of the content. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.